So good afternoon guys. So today I'm going to discuss the difference between warriors and shopkeepers diplomacy. So let's begin. Warrior or heroic diplomacy. It is a kind of diplomacy which foreign policy and diplomacy are seen as a part of military campaign. It emphasizes power, politics, national prestige, and status. The purpose of negotiation is victory. So, makasasabi natin na from the words of warrior, no, palaban at ang aim ng pakikipag-diplomasya at negosasyon ng isang bansa sa isa pang bansa ay para magkaroon ng power, politics, at the same time maging panalo sila sa pag-uusapan. Mamaya pag-bibigyan pa natin ng ordering point. At sabi dito, ang warrior or heroic diplomacy characterized as aggressive, intransigent, recalcitrant, stubborn, rigid, and impolite, at the same time undiplomatic. And unusual to sa mga bansa ngayon na kung saan nagaganap ang diplomasyang ito sa mga bansa na mayroong tragic history of conflict and war, no? So when warrior diplomacy are using to negotiate, no, they use talk, and their strategy is to secure their own goals at the expense of others. So ibig sabihin, pumapasok na dito na yung pakikipagdiplomasya, yung pakikipagnegosasyon ng isang bansa sa isa pang bansa ay hindi para magkaroon ng magandang ugnayan, bagkus ang gusto nila yung pansariling interes na kahit yung iba yung magkaroon ng hindi kagandahang sitwasyon. Kaya makikita natin at the expense of others, no, to secure their own goals. No, sabi ni Nicholson, isang German diplomat, warrior diplomacy complex which characterize moderation as weakness or timidity. Warriors use negotiation as a way to gain time and stronger position. So, to gain time and stronger position. So, masasabi natin na ang warrior diplomacy ay hindi pang both party, because ang aim nito ay self-centered, no? Self-interest ng bansa nila to gain power, to gain victory, at to gain stronger position. Na kahit pumasok sila sa diplomasya ng sa isang bansa, dapat ang magkakaroon pa rin ng parang yung punto na sila yung magiging angat ay yung isang bansang warrior diplomacy yung ginagamit, no? Na kung saan ito ay parang nagiging negative sa panahon ngayon dahil nagiging parang tunog makasarili at walang pakialam. Now, let's move on naman sa shopkeepers or mercantile diplomacy, no? Ang shopkeeper or mercantile diplomacy, it is viewed as diplomacy as an aid to peaceful commerce and among individual nation. So, itong diplomacy naman na shopkeeper ay ginagamit para maging aid ng kapayapaan ang kanilang pakikipag-negosasyon, kalakalan, no? Dahil mamaya makita natin na both parties yung nagbe-benefit, unlike sa shopkeepers. Unlike sa warriors diplomacy. It emphasizes profit politics. Unlike sa warriors, ang point nila ay power politics. Dito, profit politics instead of power politics, depending on the conciliation, compromise, and credit to enable reasonable men to find a middle point represents a sound business deal for both sides. So, mas binibigyan ng punto na yung shopkeeper or mercantile diplomacy. Ibig sabihin, both parties yung nagkakaroon ng advantage, no? Hindi nagiging makasarili yung isa. Nag-meet sila halfway to have a business deal. So it characterized as practical, open-minded, candid, and compromising. Operate on the principle that is more important is to establish trust, to moderate each side's demands, and come to mutually satisfying settlement. So dito sa mercantile or shopkeeper's demand, mas pinapahalaga na yung relasyon ng bawat bansa or ng pagkakaroon ng negosasyon at diplomasya na hindi na dedihado yung isang bansa. Bagkus in this kind of diplomacy, it shows yung trust ng bawat isa. At the same time, both parties are beneficial or nagbe-benefit yung dalawang partido, hindi lang yung isa. Unlike sa warriors na interest lang nila. Because in this mercantile or shopkeepers, interest ng bansa at interest ng isa pang bansa nagme-meet halfway to gain good diplomacy. So, ayun lang. Thank you and God bless.
As they mentioned earlier, warrior diplomacy is aggressive, intransigent, impolite, and undiplomatic. And according to our research, the best example for this kind of diplomacy is the action of Chinese government where they become aggressive in claiming territories even though there are other claimants that claiming the area in a diplomatic way. This action of Chinese government called wolf warrior diplomacy. This is seen not just in the combative words but in aggressive actions, just like when the Chinese Coast Guard allegedly sunk a Vietnamese fishing trawler and the Chinese government says that the action of Vietnam is illegal. We also mention when we give definition of warrior diplomacy that this kind of diplomacy is undiplomatic, not just on their action but also in their words. Just like when Zhao Lijian says to the critics that says imported medical equipments from China is low quality, then he suggests to stop wearing China-made masks and protective gowns. He suggests it instead of giving assurance that their equipment are good and safe. And all this thing happened not just in one day, but way back 2010 when China's GDP overtook Japan as the world's second largest. The Chinese have become more confident and China's foreign policy has become more assertive. And this thing more become possible when Chinese President Xi Jinping promote the fighting spirit. On their several occasions, whether speaking to soldiers or party officials, and this has raised the morale of Chinese officials and diplomats and encouraged a more assertive style. While on the shopkeeper's democracy as characterized as a practical, open-minded, and compromised. Just like the relation of Taiwan and France, where France considered the Taiwan as a normal partner, not only in the realm of economic trade, uh, cultural and scientific exchanges, but also to a large extent at political and even diplomatic levels. Also, Taiwan and France has a military cooperation that somehow triggered by the France weapon industry's dramatic need for new clients, and France chooses Taiwan because they have a great sensitivity to human rights and democracy, and they both want to have a stronger dependence upon the defense industry, and this action clearly portraying a strong ties between two countries. Because of this relation, France trade rate has rapidly increased since 1982, and same as Taiwan, their import and export increase at 15.4%, that estimated as 18.7 billion growth rate. Some example of their trade goods are Taiwanese well-known attraction to luxurious brand name goods, and in France is their high-quality French wines.
It is such a wonderful day for every one of us, especially you, Ma'am Giselle. And now we are going to discuss about the secret versus open diplomacy. But before that, I'm going to discuss to you what is diplomacy for a brief discussion only. For me, diplomacy is a negotiation from other states. It helps everyone to feel connected and to have a peace, because that is very necessary to have a better world. And now, we're going to tackle about the types of diplomacy. The task that was given to us is to explain the secret versus open diplomacy. We picked this topic because for me it's very interesting. And now, let us discuss about what is open diplomacy. I already have my script here because just in case na mawala ako, I can able to follow what I'm going to discuss. Okay, sometimes open diplomacy referred to as public diplomacy. Maybe because when we say public, it is very open. Ibig sabihin lahat pwedeng makisali. Hindi lang basta dalawang states, kundi more states. And now, according to sa research sa mga researcher namin, and na-research din namin, public diplomacy or open diplomacy has two types or characteristics. First, one is the branding or cultural communication, and second is facilitate more rapid results. When it comes to branding or cultural communication, it meaning to say it focuses on the culture or tradition of other states. Meaning, ibig sabihin, mas open sila doon sa mga bagay-bagay kung ano nga ba ang ginagawa ng other states. Ano ang meron sa pinagmamalaki nila, anong meron ang naiampag nila, ano ang kagandahan na kultura na meron sila. So second naman, facilitate more rapid results. Guys, I'm going to discuss according to sa knowledge lang na meron ako. And facilitate more rapid results. Ibig sabihin, when it comes to diplomacy with other states, it explain lang kung paano nga ba ano yung mga resulta na nagawa na through having a policy or through having a independent diplomacy or diplomacy sa ibang tao. Ayan. Public diplomacy, branding, or cultural communication in which the government tries to improve its image without seeking support for any immediate policy objective. Ito naman, based naman dun sa isang types of diplomacy, yung branding cultural daw is without seeking support for any immediate policy objective. Meaning to say, hindi sila nakabatay doon sa objective ng policy ng isang state. State use branding strategies to foster a better image of themselves in the world. So simply as that, we are talking about the culture. If you have a good culture in that kind of state, then it would probably set a good example to others na it has a huge influence. So right now, I'm going to discuss to you bakit nga ba siya open diplomacy? Ba't naging type siya ng open diplomacy? So ayun guys, alam naman natin na nagkaroon tayo ng World War I, nagkaroon tayo ng World War II, and then hindi natin alam ngayon kung ano pa mga pwedeng mangyari. And ang diplomacy na yan, it will help us na para magkaroon ng better world at magkaroon din ng pagkakaunawaan yung mga bansa. So dito, according dun sa na-research ko, kung alam niyo yung Marshall Plan, na kung saan ang Marshall Plan ay isa sa mga programa dati, na kung saan according nga dito sa aking research, also known as the European Recovery Program, was US program providing aid to Western Europe following the devastation of World War II. So ayun, kasi marami diba that time ang nasiraan ng mga sirahan ng mga buildings, maraming mga nasirang mga ari-arian, pati yung pagbagsak ng ekonomiya. So, nagkaroon ng organisasyon na kung saan nagtatag sila ng isang Marshall Plan. Itong Marshall Plan na to, it will help the other states to recover. And then, sa tingin nyo ba it is an open diplomacy? Oo naman. Kasi, what is the reason why it is open diplomacy? Because, first, gusto nilang tulungan yung other states. Gusto nilang matulungan kung ano pa mga pangangailangan ng iba. Hindi bukod sa pag sinabi nating secret diplomacy, sa tingin nyo ba, gusto niyang tulungan yung other states kung alam naman nila na meron silang secret abomination? Ako lang po ay nag-explain batay sa aking mga napagkakaintindi. I hope that you understand what I'm trying to say. So ngayon, the relative advantages of open diplomacy over secret diplomacy can be seen from comparing the results of the Marshall Plan with those of Versailles Peace Treaty. We are talking about the Versailles Peace Treaty. Sorry for my wrong pronunciation of Versailles. It is a diplomacy or a negotiation that helped to stop World War I. So, ayun na nga po. So, what is Treaty of Versailles ulit? Was the most important of the peace treaties that brought World War I to an end. So, kung mapapansin natin, may mga negotiation na nangyayari. So, sa tingin nyo sa dalawa, anong pinaka-the best doon? So, doon, parang pinakita doon na parang nagkaroon ng negotiation sa dalawang makapangyarihang mga panig para matigil yung World War I na yan. So, nagkaroon po tayo ng open diplomacy. So, yun. Meron din akong dito na yung mamaya i-discuss siya ni Darish yung secret diplomacy. Sa akin naman kasi, open diplomacy ang madalas na ginagamit ngayon sa atin sa international organizations. United Nations. Kasi pag nagkaroon tayo ng secret diplomacy, ano na kaya ang sasabihin ng other state? Parang may tinatago, something like that. Sabi dito, secret agreements and alliance, pakinggan nyo, of the past are not anymore acceptable. Ulit, secret agreements and alliances of the past are not anymore acceptable by modern societies. So mostly, open diplomacy na po ang ginagamit natin. This trend started at the time of the League of Nations when President Wilson was favoring the open covenants, openly arrived and found its concrete expression to the UN character. So yun guys, simply as that, na hindi ko na siya pwedeng anuhin from the word open itself. Ibig sabihin, transparent ka sa mga nangyayari when it comes to public, when it comes to social media. They are very transparent when it comes to information. Wala silang tinatago, lahat marereport at malalaman ng ibang tao. But when it comes to secret diplomacy, alam mo na yon, from the word itself, secret. So yun po, yun lang po yung diniscuss ko ngayon, and I hope na naintindihan nyo po yun. And yung pagkakaintindi ng Marshall Plan and Marshall Plan and then Treaty of Versailles po. So, yun yung dalawang isa sa mga great examples na ating open diplomacy. So, I hope that you understand and let's go to the next topic. Salamat po.
So now, let's talk about secret treaty. We should need to define first what is a secret treaty, what is the purpose of secret treaty, and at the same time, what is the relevance of it, particularly in diplomacy. So first, secret treaty is a treaty between nations, either bilateral, multilateral, but it is not revealed to other nations. Secret treaty always remain, keep the agreement secrets. So according to the one compilation of secret treaties, it is a book by which in that publication tells that there's 593 recorded secret treaties in 110 countries in the whole world from the year 1521 to 2004. Yan yung pagitan ng mga taon na nakabag-record na mayroong humigit kulang 600 secret treaties. But until now, a lot of political scientists historians and at the same time diplomats tells that patuloy na nag-a-arise at patuloy na lumalaki ang bilang ng mga nadidiskubreng secret treaties. The use of secret agreements and undertakings between several allies or between one state and another continued through World War I, 1914 to 1918. We know that treaty is an official, express written agreements that the state used to legally bind to themselves. But secret treaties also have a ratification between the nations na nagkakaroon ng kasunduan. So now, we will give at least 3 or more treaty na possible na sumasaklaw sa sekretong allies o secret agreements. Number 1 is the Treaty of London. Again, Treaty of London. Treaty of London, or less correctly, the Pact of London, was a secret treaty between the tribal entity and the Kingdom of Italy. So, London and Italy have merged to create a treaty. So, what is the purpose of the treaty? Number 1 factor is the power. They want to maintain their relationship and at the same time, through secreting it, through keeping the informations, nandun yung direkta nilang pag-uugnayan. There's a ratification between the diplomats from London and the Italy. Number 2, the Treaty of Dover. Treaty of Dover is very known and popular in Roman Catholic Church. It is the connections and the bilateral agreement between England and France. So, nung panahon yan, it is year 1670. June 1670 na napagkasunduan ang treaty na to, by which the leader of head ng England is Charles II and France is Louis XIV. So si Louis XIV ay nag-present ng iba't ibang ideya na maaaring posibleng sumalba sa relasyong England and France, particularly sa mga possible future wars. So ganito yung inihain ng dalawang bansa. Number 1, France, through the lead of Louis XIV, requiring Charles II, the King of England, na magpalit ng reliyon into Roman Catholic Church. That is the number 1 na nakasaad sa treaty. Pangalawa, kung magkaroon man ng digmaan between France and the Dutch Republic, the England support 60 warships plus 4,000 soldiers. So again, 60 warships and 4,000 soldiers. That is the assistance from England, by which England support France if there's a conflict, magkaroon man ng digmaan between France and Dutch Republic. And at the same time, hindi naman papayag na all the favor and all the chances is always be given to France. Pag nagkaroon man daw ng digmaan or kahit na anong aggressors o humamak na malalaking powerful states and nations to England, the France giving and supporting 6,000 French troops. Again, 6,000 French troops. And at the same time, hindi doon natapos ng kasunduan nila. Charles II received 230,000 euro annually. It is from the government of Louis XIV. So, paano siya na-reveal? So, at the pass-by, it will reveal because din na nag-lapse yung ugnayan nila. And at the same time, nagkaroon ng problema. And that is the number 1 issue na ang treaty nito is screen designed for propaganda purposes and to hide the religious dimension of the secret treaty. Next, the Reinsurance Treaty. The Reinsurance Treaty is the treaty between Germany and Russia. It is signed year 1887. So year 1887, Germany and Russia still be connecting to one another. Bago sila nagkaroon ng ugnayan, bago sila mag-merge in one treaty, nandoon yung preparation nila. They will smell something fishy na parang sa bawat ilipas sa taon, magkakaroon ng digmaan. It is a preparatory way to protect their own territory and empower their militarizations for the incoming World War I from the year 1914 to 1918, if I'm not mistaken. So, sino yung humakbang palapit para maisakatuparan ng treaty na to? So, the Russian diplomats go to Berlin, go to Germany, para isakatuparan ng batas na ito, ang treaty na ito, by which, if digmain ni Germany, si France, or digmain ni Russia, si Austria, it is not part of the treaty. Ang saklaw lang po ng treaty na to, if France attack Germany, if Austria attack the Russia. But at the end of the top of the treaty, nagbago yung gusto ng Russia. They want to renew it again from 1890. Pero, on that time, iba na yung leader, hindi na si Bismarck. Kasi from the year 1887 to 1890, Bismarck is the leader of Germany. Pero nung natapos yung position ni Bismarck, kasi natanggal siya ng panibagong leader, doon nag-collapse, doon nag-refuse ang Germany na we will not renew the treaty, we will need to end it. Nung time na in-end po ng Germany yung treaty na yan, doon na nag-arise ang Franco-Russian Alliance of 1891, 1892 to 1917. Rapidly began to take shape. Again, I will repeat it. Hindi po saklaw ng treaty ito if mismong Germany at Russia ang maghamon o maging aggressor sa isang war. And at the same time, the purpose of this treaty is to remain neutral. If there's a conflict between Russia and the different aggressors, particularly Austria, the Germany need to remain neutral. Walang kakampihan, walang susuportahan. Kasi if we try to look at it, Germany and Russia is from different allies. If we compare from the year 1914 sa World War, magkaiba sila ng alyansa, magkalaban yung alyansa nila. But in the year 1887 to 1890, they start to prepare, they start to reconcile na we need to plan for our militarization, we need to empower our friendship, and at the same time, through this secret treaty, lumalago tayo parehas, particularly our bilateral reconnectionist of diplomatic country. And at the same time, nandito yung issue na si Kaiser Wilhelm II, siya yung naging leader ng Germany from the year 1890 onwards. And he removed Bismarck from office in 1890. And Russia asked for a renewal of treaty. But again and again, Germany refused it. Bismarck, successor na si Leo von Caprivel, na inaasahan ni Bismarck na magre-renew but felt no need. Hindi din po ni-renew ng successor ni Bismarck. But, for instances, the Reinsurance Treaty contradicted the secret treaty of the year 1883. Kasi in which Germany and Austria promised to protect Romania. Kasi number one purpose ni Germany why we will need to engage in Reinsurance Treaty is to maintain the harmonious peace in Europe. That is the number one purpose. And always we looked at all the historians agree that the Reinsurance Treaty itself was not of great importance. Kasi hindi naman talaga nagkaroon ng digmaan noong that time. Wala namang digmaang nangyari para magkaroon ng neutrality friendship. And that is the one factor why a lot of political scientists in European University, particularly in Germany, hindi nila nakita yung halagang o importansya dito ng treaty na to. And now, always be looking that naging factor din ito ng hidwaan ng iba't ibang bansa kung na discover ito na why do we need to be close particularly to the other allies? Bakit pinagtataksilan natin yung sarili nating alyansa? And to end up this report, the question is if it is still have a secret treaty right now in the 19th or the 20th or the 21st century? A lot of historians, a lot of diplomats say yes. Particularly in the year 1960, there's an hidden and secret treaties between United States and Japan by which nagkaroon po ng stock, nagkaroon ng taguan ng mga weapon, particular nuclear weapons, ang US forces in Japan. It is high. Pero bakit nagiging revealed ito? Bakit na iilabas ito sa tao? It is because of media, particularly yung si Bismarck. Yung si Bismarck ay natanggal na sa kanyang posisyon. Siya mismo yung nag-reveal sa media. From the year 1896, Bismarck revealed it in German newspaper. Inihayag niya that there's an agreement and ratification from the year 1887 run to 1890 on his position na mayroon pala mangyayaring treaty. Ito ay pinagulat ng international community. But it is a big factor na why Bismarck recognized Russia, but at the same time siya din na mismong nagbunyag ng secret treaties. So lastly, yung Treaty of London, again, the Treaty of Dover, the Reinsurance Treaty, it is part of secret treaties. The main goal of secret treaties is always be empowerment, the friendship, the militarization, the power, and always be have a goal. Paghandaan ng bukas, paghandaan ng possible na digmaan. And always be considered that kahit anong treaties yan, it is official if there's a ratification. Tulad po ng Treaties of London, Treaties of Insurance, all of them have ratifications. Pero tanging iilan lamang ang nakakaalam nito. Tanging limitadong tao lamang ang siyang maaaring makaalam ng iba't ibang detalye magtatakda sa batas na ito. Sa pagtatapos, yung reinsurance treaty, it is important to know na ang tanging nakaalam nito bago ito mahihayag sa media, sa tao, ay tanging matataas na opisyal from Berlin and St. Petersburg. Always consider that treaties is official needed are written. Okay? Ratification. So again, thank you. Secret treaties is different to open treaties. Particularly, nung pa lang sa definition, ibang-iba na sila. Thank you.